Nightmare King and Night Hunter are the primary and secondary antagonists of the critically acclaimed TV show LEGO Dreams. I'm sorry, that's the only dreams bashing I'll do in this video. I promise I like this show. While watching and rewatching Dreams, I noticed just how disturbing their relationship is. Like, I knew it was bad, but upon rewatching the show and actually thinking about things, I realized just how bad it really is. So today I wanted to examine their relationship and explain a bit of what I see in them. So let's start with... In episode 3, we get our first glimpse into how these two interact. Nightmare King yells at Night Hunter responds with a valid concern, and Nightmare King responds with more yelling before going on an evil monologue. The scene is pretty short, so we can't extract too much from it, but their dynamic is expanded upon in the episode following. In episode 4, Nightmare King greets Night Hunter with a reminder of his failure and mocks him. Night Hunter assures him that he'll get the job done. He suggests they create more Grimspawn to aid in capturing the Dream Chasers, to which Nightmare King responds by threatening him and ordering him to capture those dreamers no matter what. Night Hunter submits to his orders. This is the first time we get to see how the power dynamic between them influences their relationship. Nightmare King uses his authority over Night Hunter to threaten and berate him, while Night Hunter gives in to him because he knows he can't challenge his boss. It's also basically the first time we see them interact in general, and it definitely sets the precedent for what's to come in their relationship. We get the next noteworthy interaction in episode 7. The scene starts with Nightmare King chastising Night Hunter on his poor performance, saying the Dream Chasers keep beating him over and over again. He then closes in on Night Hunter, walking towards him while threatening him. We can see that Night Hunter is visibly afraid of what his boss will do to him. But Nightmare King says that he was just joking and that he wouldn't hurt Night Hunter because he isn't a monster. Even though he said that, he still ends the scene with another threat against his underling. We know how their power dynamic affects their relationship, but I'd like to point out how Night Hunter in this scene is physically fearful and backs away from Nightmare King the whole time. He never speaks. It's as if he's scared to talk back to the man in charge. He believes Nightmare King is being serious about reprimanding him. This is one of the first times we ever see Night Hunter genuinely fearful or intimidated for a prolonged period. To me, this shows that there are very few things that Night Hunter is afraid of, and his boss is one of them. In episode 9, we see another outburst from Nightmare King. This time, it was because Lunia's hourglass wouldn't work. He screams at Night Hunter, angry that he told him it would work. Night Hunter sheepishly apologizes, saying he genuinely believed it would work. He was not trying to lead his master astray. Nightmare King, instead of responding to him with words, chooses to shoot a blast of magic at the Grimspawn behind Night Hunter. The interaction ends with Nightmare King ordering Night Hunter to get out of his sight and walking away. This, in my opinion, shows that whenever something goes wrong, even if it can't be blamed on anyone, Nightmare King will always jump to blaming Night Hunter. Night Hunter had nothing but the best of intentions, and did genuinely believe the hourglass would work, but Nightmare King doesn't care what his intentions were. He only cares that Night Hunter was wrong, and because he was wrong, that gives Nightmare King an opportunity to berate him. Another thing about episode 9. At the end of this episode, Night Hunter is again being berated by Nightmare King, this time in a much calmer manner. This time, Night Hunter actually tries defending himself, blaming the situation on Sneak, as at this point he believes Sneak to be a traitor, but Nightmare King proves his statements to be false. Night Hunter only gets out of being punished by providing useful information about Z-Blob to Nightmare King. It gives me the impression that Nightmare King would punish him for any mistake he makes, and only stops berating and punishing him when he's being useful. In episode 14, we get one of the wildest interactions I've seen out of these two, honestly. Nightmare King and Night Hunter have stopped outside the Murky Realm. They are both aware of how dangerous it is in there, so Night Hunter asks what his liege would like to do. And for having the audacity to ask a question to his boss, he gets mocked and screamed at. Nightmare King tells him to enter the Murky Realm on his own, and Night Hunter submits. Night Hunter is so defeated at the end of this scene. Like, just listen to how he takes the orders.
Yes, your nightmarishness.
We've established that Night Hunter getting yelled at and then submitting to orders is a regular occurrence, but I feel like we're getting a little more about how Night Hunter feels about all this just through his tone, and it's so sad. It's like he knows that no matter how much he's yelled at, he has to follow any orders he's given, no matter how dangerous. Keep that in mind because it's important later. In episode 15, their relationship continues to be absolutely wild. This scene starts with Nightmare King berating Night Hunter yet again. Night Hunter remains silent the whole time, bowed in submission. Nightmare King yells at him, calling him useless and telling him to get out of his sight. After this interaction, Night Hunter is visibly upset and takes out that frustration on the Grimspawn. This paints a very clear picture of what a normal interaction looks like between these two, and it is scary. It's short, yes, but boy is it depressing. And it begs the question, how did this interaction start? Did Nightmare King just call Night Hunter over only to yell at him? Does this happen often? Because Night Hunter's reaction makes it seem like this is something that happens often. And I would definitely believe Nightmare King would just call Night Hunter over to yell at him. He just seems like the kind of person who would do that. This whole scene raises so many questions with probably just depressing answers. Now for episode 18. This one is probably the worst, so buckle up. Nightmare King has finally gotten his hands on both the Hourglass and Z-Blob. He believes these things will allow him to cross into the waking world. He's been trying to figure out how to use Z-Blob for this purpose for a while now and has given up, frustrated. He tells Night Hunter to use Lunia's Hourglass to dreamcraft his portal to the waking world. Night Hunter protests, saying a dreamcraft like that is virtually impossible. Nightmare King responds by yelling at him, threatening him, and saying that if he doesn't do it, he'll be just as worthless as the Grimspawn. Night Hunter submits and starts trying to dreamcraft, a process that is obviously painful to him. He fails multiple times, but keeps trying until a burst of energy sends him flying, almost throwing him into the depths below. Nightmare King approaches him and tells him to do it again. This begins a cycle off-screen of Night Hunter attempting to dreamcraft, being hurt in the process, Nightmare King not caring if he's hurt, and demanding he continues. Eventually, Night Hunter is allowed to take a break, and on this break, he leaves the Shadowkeep and stands outside. He knows that if he keeps trying to use the Hourglass, he'll die. He can't hide out here forever, but he can't go back without using the Hourglass for Nightmare King. Eventually, he is brought back to the Shadowkeep. He tells Nightmare King the truth, that he'll die if he uses it. But he does know someone else who can use it. Mateo. Dun dun dun. I'm sorry for the joke, it's serious. I know it's serious. This whole situation is so messed up on so many levels. This is what I was talking about in episode 14. This is yet another situation where Night Hunter has no choice but to do something dangerous. This time something that will kill him because Nightmare King demanded it. He doesn't want to do it. He really doesn't want to do it, but he knows he has to. He only returns to the Shadowkeep when he has information that'll get him out of doing it. Again, he gets out of being punished by being useful to Nightmare King. Okay, I think I've showed enough scenes to make you see what I'm seeing here. Their relationship is obviously messed up and bad. The power dynamic and stuff like yikes, man. It's clear that this is not healthy for either of them. So now that we know what their relationship is like, I want to talk about how they view each other. How they see each other can possibly give an answer as to why they act the way they do in this relationship. So let's talk about... Nightmare King sees Night Hunter like trash. Wow, what a surprise! He views Night Hunter as disposable, useless, weak, and a whole other host of terrible things.
You are useless!
Even though he views him so lowly, he knows he needs Night Hunter for some things, and manipulates him into staying in any way possible. The yelling, the insults, the threats, combined with the power and status he gives Night Hunter, it's all done to make Night Hunter feel like he has nowhere else to go. And I think Nightmare King is very aware of what he's doing. He's the mastermind here, there's no way he doesn't know. He is, above all else, evil, and this is exactly what an evil person would do. Abuse those he views as lower than him. It's simple, but it's also very messed up and wrong. Also, side note, that script reading me is adding here, because I didn't write this in the script and I just realized it now. He may be doing all this stuff to get Night Hunter to stay because he fears people leaving him, because of what Lunia did, or what he thinks Lunia did to him. He may have abandonment issues and is doing this to Night Hunter on purpose to make sure that Night Hunter never leaves him. So something to consider. Now, we obviously know that Nightmare King doesn't respect or appreciate Night Hunter, so what could Night Hunter possibly see in him that would make him stay? Fortunately for this video, we know exactly what Night Hunter thinks of Nightmare King. He said it all himself, in a YouTube video. That's right, I'm bringing Night Hunter rants into this discussion! In his video on Nightmare King, Night Hunter says that he respects and admires his boss, that he's the most evil guy he knows. Nightmare King is the person who gave Night Hunter the power he wanted, so it makes sense why he would think of him so highly. It's clear he loves Nightmare King a lot and cares for him deeply, but I think there's some other emotions buried under the surface. I think he's a bit in denial about how Nightmare King sees him. The way he talks about Nightmare King is disturbingly positive. Like, he's put this man on such a high pedestal that no one else will ever compare to him. Like, every choice he makes is perfect and correct, no matter what. Even though deep down, he knows Nightmare King doesn't respect him. But he wants that respect so bad that he will continue to be verbally berated and threatened by him if it means Nightmare King will keep him around. It's like he thinks that if he just submits to him, that he will eventually earn Nightmare King's love, and is unable to accept that he never will. He does his best for his liege berates and threatens him, he continues to try his best, and the cycle continues. They are so messed up. This relationship is just Nightmare King berating and threatening Night Hunter, and Night Hunter being unable to ever say no or fight back against him because of the power imbalance. I hesitate to call it abuse, but also if these were human beings, I don't know, man, somebody's definitely getting the cops called on them, and it's Nightmare King. These two are just so deeply messed up on so many levels, like there is no way this relationship will ever be healthy or normal. And I don't think it ever was to begin with. Like, it may have been less awful at the start, but over the years Nightmare King's abuse just escalated. But at that point, it was too late for Night Hunter to leave because he had already given up everything he had for this relationship and the power. In conclusion, sad. Very depressing, very bad relationship. I hope Night Hunter leaves. But with the way he speaks about Nightmare King, I don't think that's gonna happen. I wouldn't be surprised if in Season 2, Night Hunter vows to get Nightmare King out of his prison and or take revenge on the Dream Chasers for doing this to him in the first place. But who knows, this whole video could be outdated by the time Season 2 comes out, and God, I hope it's not!